My name is Greg Oden. I'm a resident here in Fort Wayne, and I've lived here for the last 43 years now. The first time I ever saw Greg Oden, it was at a local bar, and he was set up on stage. He had just an acoustic guitar. I just had so much respect. So, I made my way across the room. I put down my Pabst, and I made my way across the room, and I just gave my undivided attention to him and only him. I already feel like Gray does love me, but my love for Gray, because he is a star in the making. He's a star in my sky, and he's a star in the sky of many lost souls. Not to say that I'm lost per se, but certainly if I was lost, I now am found because of what he did and continues to do. It is definitely love, not necessarily in love, but I guess I would have to consider myself lucky to be named so similarly to two of my heroes, because if you look at how my name is actually spelled, it's not the traditional spelling of Greg, nor is the pronunciation even quite the same. It's Greg, and it's actually spelled G-R-E-Y, Gray's name, but just with the G. So, Greg Oden. And then, obviously, again, similar to Greg Oden, which I'm a big fan of sports, from everything from rugby to shuffleboard, and then, of course, basketball. And that Greg Oden was hung like a horse, let me tell you. He actually it was a medical problem for him. It was difficult for him to play, so it's cool because Gray and Greg both overcame a lot of obstacles to get where they are today. With it being Greg, his huge penis, and then with Gray, just his upbringing and his huge fear of heights, especially. I never asked him point blank, but when he's looking down at me from the stage, and make no mistake, he does make eye contact with me. He knows that I'm there. I know he's there. Obviously, that's the reason I leave the house in the first place. I wouldn't leave the cats otherwise unattended. Tom Henry, which is the name of the mayor of the town. There's one named Tom, one named Henry, and one named Tom Henry. Mr. Shit. If I had a chance to be in a Greg Oden music video, as either a backup dancer or just anything to show my appreciation for him, I would love it. I'd do it for free. I'd actually pay him. Chris, which is actually Gray's given first name, and then obviously one named Gray, and then one named Gordon, and again, kind of with the Tom Henry thing, one that's named Christopher Gray Gordon. Then we obviously have Mr. Piss. If he sees this, let him know I'll pay him to be in it. My favorite Greg Gordon song? I can't pick. Off the top of my head, I couldn't name one of his records. I couldn't tell you what it's called. I could hum it tune for tune. I do dabble with recorder, xylophone, and I could put together a little pastiche of maybe what it could sound like if they were played on those instruments. I guess if Gray and I were watching movies together, I'd want to watch horror movies, just because whenever you watch a scary movie, you kind of, whoever you're with, even if you're two straight guys, I think that you sit closer to one another, just because that's comforting. In a situation like that, you never know what's going to happen. If Gray and I were two characters in a movie, we'd probably be either in Sleepless in Seattle, or You've Got Mail, French Kiss, Philadelphia, Sling Blade, Powder, Hoosiers. Something like that. I mean, those are just a few of my favorite tunes by him, and the list goes obviously on and on and on and on and on and on. I wouldn't consider myself a rocker. Before Gray, I had not actually heard of rock and roll. Once when I was 16, Greg Gordon, before he was straight edge, which I know is hard to believe now with the X's all over his face and stuff like that, he gave me weed that was actually laced with PCP. But if Greg Gordon says do something, if he says jump, you say how high, and how high indeed. And ever since then, I've been terrified of brown bears. And Barry White doesn't sit well with me either. I can barely stand his music. One time a man almost beat me to death with his bare hands. Fuck Barry Manilow. Not his #1 fan. I've never read the Berenstein Bears again. I accidentally lost my job at the meatpacking facility back in '91, and I've actually been on disability since then because I do not possess the ability to get another job. I don't necessarily think that Gray would make a good president, not because he's not qualified, because it's actually on record that he does have the highest IQ of anybody on the face of the planet Earth since Albert Einstein. Gravity, ever heard of it? Stupid. I'm not really sure what's next for me in my life, if you want to call it that. I think it's mostly just honing in on what the cats are communicating to me without words. And you know, in the meantime, if I find the will, keep myself alive. But for Gray, the future is so bright. Not for Greg, but for Gray. He's just a shining star that lights up the whole night like Jesus.
Rest until I know this city sleeps safe. The law enforcement didn't need my help today, but they'll soon find out. They get the hero not that they deserve, but that they need, or perhaps the other way around.
You ready? All right.
I'll never sleep again.